539057.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States.
And 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected.
Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf.
Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy.
As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired.
Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl. Howl!
No one should have to choose between a paycheck and their health. Whether it's for a new baby, an unexpected illness, or an aging parent, Minnesotans deserve time to care for themselves and their families. That's why Minnesota Democrats are fighting for all working people to have paid family and medical leave. The time is now. Contact your legislator and tell them to pass paid family and medical leave for Minnesota. Learn more at paidleavemn.org. That's paidleavemn.org. Paid for by the Minnesota AFL-CIO.
A lot has changed since 2020. Metro Transit wants to hear from you to help build a network that best serves the Metro's needs for the next 5 years. Help us grow the right way as more resources, like more drivers, become available. Learn more, fill out an online survey, and find out about upcoming meetings in your neighborhood at metrotransit.org/network-now. metrotransit.org/network-now.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Hey, Kennedy, to all my friends and relatives in 4 directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy, but with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for cloudy skies tonight with a low around 34, Friday rain and snow with a high near 39, and Saturday partly cloudy with a high around 38. Scotch Mama's offers a huge taste out of a little place. Besides their delicious barbecue, they have potato salads, spicy baked beans, twice-baked potatoes, and delicious desserts. Located at 3 West Diamond Lake Road near the intersection of Nicollet Avenue and West Diamond Lake Road in Minneapolis, find their winter hours and full menu at scotchamamas.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous. Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hitting cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Karagi, to all my friends and relatives in 4 directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot, and we discuss local and national Native news and events. And as you all know, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues. And I just want to give a quick shout out. This portion is supported by MN350, a grassroots organization fighting for climate justice. Hey, I have a special guest. And it seems like I say that all the time, Trish. I have a special guest, but I really do have a special guest tonight. I have Trish Cook, a rock and roll comedian here, a Native American. And I would just, I guess we want to kind of do This Is Your Life. Who are you? What's going on? And then talk about all these great things. And I know you're coming off a big Indian Way comedy in Minneapolis that was sold out, and totally excited. I have had a couple of your the other comedians on the show, and now it's time for you, Trish. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you for having me, Robert. I'm really excited to be here. I love what you do. I'm a little hungry for Scotch Mamas now after hearing them as your sponsor. Oh my gosh, I haven't had them in a long time. It's so good, but it's really great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, let's talk a little bit about you. I know you have three kids
Mhm.
that are probably really young because you're super young,
Yes,
and
yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
No, I
and
have three young adult sons. I'm almost an empty nester, not quite yet, but getting real close. Yeah. I've
awesome.
got,
And
yeah.
you've loved comedy since the 70s and 80s. Tell us a little bit about. I know you're all over the city here too, and you do a lot of things like hosting a trivia
Mhm.
at Dusty's in Northeast.
Yep.
You do a lot of daily things, but
Yep.
your big jam is comedy. Let's talk about that and talk about who you are. Now, you were brought up in Minneapolis, right?
Mhm. Yep. I sure was. So my family is from Red Lake. We are Red Lakers, and I feel like Red Lake was very present in the way that I grew up and the way that my siblings and I grew up in our family. But I grew up in South Minneapolis. And our house was busy and loud and noisy, and it was kind of a stop that people would have when they were coming through Minneapolis. So we had people coming and going from our house all the time. Sometimes they stayed a couple of hours, sometimes a couple of days, sometimes longer. We never knew, but my parents always had our home open to all. So that's kind of how we grew up. Yeah.
You say you were. It was loud. I think of your brother because I worked with your brother for many,
Mhm.
many, many years at Harding, and I know he was a
Yep.
drummer or
Yep.
still is.
Yep.
So I
He
I went
is.
right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. He had to move his drums a couple of times. His drums were in the garage for a while, and then they ended up being in the basement. And uh, I mean, yes, it was loud with people, loud with noise, loud with music, loud with conversation. And I think our volume is just, I think it's loud. I'm not sure.
Exactly. Well, it's really funny, Trish, before, and our community is so small, but before I've met you, and I've met you at a couple
Mhm.
native things that you've emceed and done your routine at, I people had come up to me and asked me if I've heard of you, which was really exciting once, seriously, because I was doing the show every day at the fair, and some people would
Yeah.
come up and go, "Do you know Trish Cook?" And I'm going,
Well,
um
I know Sarah Larson Sweet is across the way from you at the state fair. I know, and people are right. We do kind of all know each other, and if we don't know each other, it's a one or two person separation, right? So it's
Exactly.
small. It's small.
So I just got done reading a book about 3, 4 months ago called "We Had a Little Real Estate Problem." It's
Ah, yeah.
unheralded story of Native Americans in comedy, and we're going to have the author on very soon.
Oh, awesome.
Um, what amazes me, and not probably so much to you, but how Charlie Hill was such a prominent idol to many comedians now,
Mhm.
and talk about him a little bit and talk about how he's inspired you to do your thing.
Well, when I grew up and growing up, there weren't many images of American Indians, Native people in the media, not in the mainstream media, not in alternative media. I mean, there just wasn't a lot. I mean, um, I mean, we had, I mean, these are the people that I think of like who I saw as Native folks in the media growing up at that time. I mean, there was Floyd Westerman, there was Will Sampson, Buffy St. Marie, there's Charlie Hill. I mean, we'd even take Billy Jack, right? Like if he was on TV, we would run to go watch him, to see him, because there just weren't enough. I mean, I remember, I don't know what grade I was in, but going to see Windwalkers, like this
Mm.
really terrible 80s movie, like after church on a Sunday, because it was a movie about American Indians. So my family was really, I think my folks were really intentional about letting us see and meet people and be exposed to American Indians wherever it could be. I mean, in academics, if they were theater, if there was a poetry reading, like I remember going to, very sparsely attended poetry readings in, basements or language tables, just, because if you can't see something, if you can't imagine something, you don't know how to model it, right? So with Charlie Hill, I was lucky enough to be in Minneapolis and had, parents that could afford to take us to his shows. And he and my father got along well. So when I would run into I remember the last time I saw Charlie Hill was at the Minneapolis American Indian Center. And I was just running in to take care of some errands. And he was coming by and I was like, oh, Charlie Hill, oh, how are you? And he said, well, is that a-hole father of yours still around? It's like, oh my God, like that's such love, right? Like that's a good thing. So I think it was really important for my parents and my dad especially to show us the variety and depth and many layers of American Indian culture, and that we can fill all kinds of spaces, and that there was no space that we shouldn't be in. For me, I mean, I've always loved comedy. I used to sneak downstairs to, watch Saturday Night Live. I've been thinking a lot about this. As you may know, my father died during COVID, and, he used to get me, he read to me every night when I was a kid, absolutely every night, and did voices and had this whole routine.
Wow.
And he really instilled a love of reading. And I think no matter how it took to get, us reading, he would support. So for me, it was joke books. And I remember getting like the big, fat street jokes, knock jokes about rabbits, jokes about elephants, all the stuff. And then other things. I mean, so I don't know if you knew, but he also, taught me a few good jokes and encouraged that humor. And I think our humor in our communities is so important. And, I remember my dad saying things like, this guy is such a jerk, but he's so goddamn funny. Like it was still a compliment. You couldn't not like somebody who could be funny.
Well, it's funny too, and we're with Trish Cook here, a comedian of Indian Way Comedy, and we're talking about her and a comedy, native comedy, and what we said a little earlier, Trish, is like if your native relatives aren't making fun of you, they don't like you.
That's right. Yep.
So it's a compliment.
100%. Yeah.
Hey, we got to take a quick break here. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and we'll be right back after this short break. Please stay with us.
When we heal from our traumas,
when we face our fears,
let go of our addictions,
when we relearn our values,
when we live our teachings,
respecting our elders,
cherishing and honoring our children,
when we honor and take care of our spirit,
there will be no room left for sexual violence.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hey, Olgama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
No one should have to choose between a paycheck and their health. Whether it's for a new baby, an unexpected illness, or an aging parent, Minnesotans deserve time to care for themselves and their families. That's why Minnesota Democrats are fighting for all working people to have paid family and medical leave. The time is now. Contact your legislator and tell them to pass Paid Family and Medical Leave Minnesota. Learn more at paidleavemn.org. That's paidleavemn.org. Paid for by the Minnesota AFL-CIO.
A lot has changed since 2020. Metro Transit wants to hear from you to help build a network that best serves the Metro's needs for the next 5 years. Help us grow the right way as more resources, like more drivers, become available. Learn more, fill out an online survey, and find out about upcoming meetings in your neighborhood at metrotransit.org/network-now. metrotransit.org/network-now.
Bijou. I am Oshawashko Gijig. I'm from Red Lake Nation, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. Hey, welcome back, everyone. We're here with Trish Cook, and comedian and one of the stars of Indian Way comedy. And Trish, I want to get this over with right away so I don't forget, because, I'm getting up there in years and I have a good memory, but it's short. I want people, you to give out your information about how people can get a hold of you, whether it's MC, comedy, or whatever. Let's get that out there, and then talk about what you are up to in the next month or so.
Okay, thanks, Robert. I appreciate that. All of my social media is under Hey Trish Cook or HeyTrishCook.com. I have that because that's how I get called out. People are like, "Why do you say that?" And then they'll hear somebody go, "Hey Trish Cook," because I have a name that gets first and last name said at once together. And I also can be reached by email at trishaleecook@gmail.com. And yeah, I'd love to host and MC events. We do comedy. I do comedy individually, and then with my guys, John Roberts and Rob, the Res Reporter, Fairbanks. So the three of us are what's Indian Way comedy.
Right. And you have an upcoming event in April 23rd, which is really coming up quick.
Yeah, this Sunday, this weekend.
Wow. I don't even know what day it is, Trish. That's how old I am. Wow.
Me either. We were going to have a show, the three of us, the original Indian Way comedy, with myself and John and Rob. And unfortunately, Rob's mother is in hospice, and she's expecting to make her journey onward. So we're sending love and prayers and healing to Rob and his family. So he is not going to be there this Sunday. And John Roberts, he did not plan well and was going to miss his mom's birthday. So John is out so that he doesn't have all the Red Lake women in his life upset with him. So we've got two bringers coming up. So Deanna Ray Standing Cloud, she is also from Red Lake. And then we have Arthur Hardy, who has basically grown up in the Twin Cities, but he's a Leech Laker. So we still have the same representation of Red Lakers and Leech Lakers that we normally do. But on Sunday, I will be considered the headliner and closing out the show. So I'm excited about that. We will be at the House of Comedy at the Mall of America.
7 p.m.
7, and it's a real 7 because sometimes we put the wrong time on our posters. But it's a real 7 because the Mall of America, the House of Comedy, does early shows on Sunday. So it's a real 7 o'clock start time.
Well, it's funny that you have Deanna on because in that book that I referred to, we talk a lot about our comedians came as powwow MCs, and she's one of the only and first women powwow MCs in the country, and she does a fabulous job.
Yeah, so we're really excited about that. I thought that's great, and I like to support women and women comedians when I can, whether they're Native or not. I mean, it's comedy is a tough business. It is really tough. It gets really ugly. And I think it's even tougher for women, really, truly, for a lot of different reasons. And I think being a woman of color and an Indigenous woman adds other layers to that. So I'm really excited for what she's going to do. I'm excited to share the stage with her and get her exposed to a whole new group of, new audience. It'll be great.
I think, and I hate to shit on you, but I think
that's okay.
We should have a comedy contest here in the Twin Cities.
Oh, there's too many already.
And have Indian Way run it and bring people all over the country and just have.
Oh, good. Okay, who's sponsoring? Can we get Scotch Mamas to sponsor that? I would do that. That would be awesome. That'd be
I
great.
think we should get some tribes to sponsor it personally, because I think promoting women comedians and men comedians is huge, and
It's so
especially with the
important.
way things are blowing up here with Reservation Dogs.
Yep.
Prior to that, we had Rutherford Falls,
Yep.
and there's still things out
Northern Exposure. I still think Northern Exposure doesn't get enough attention. I mean, they showed Native people just not as sidekicks, not as a, one-off, but as complex characters that had funny stuff going on and that dry humor. And I think they did it so well without being all the beads and feathers stuff, right? I mean, that's
Right.
fine. It has a place, but it shows that I think that was the first show that I watched that was like, wow, they're showing us on TV, which I had never, we weren't the main characters, but we're still more evolved than I had ever seen before.
Well, it's funny too. I did not put two and two together, but the comedian that was in the back in the car that was going backwards on the reservation on smoke signals
Yep.
was the actor from Northern Exposure.
Yep. Arlene. Yes. Yep. And now she's everybody's auntie. So
Yeah,
that's great.
yeah.
I'm happy. I mean,
Yep.
it's so great to see. So it's fun.
Well, how did you get your start? So when was the first time you got out on we were talking a little bit about that, with watching Saturday Night Live and Charlie Hill. What got you on the stage finally? How
I'd
many years?
actually been booking and helping produce shows at a theater in South Minneapolis for many years with Joe Manjaris, who is a Chicano comedian here, an actor in Minneapolis. And I was lucky enough to be really good friends with his kids, with him. And I worked for him for many years. And Joe gave me a lot of love and inspiration and was like, hey, you should just do it. I mean, you're funny. You got to, and he pushed me. So after a number of years of working behind the scenes, I finally did it. I think I don't keep track of my comedy anniversary as well as a lot of other comics do for some reason. Like, it's just like, I actually kind of don't want to remember the first time I went on stage. But it's been about 10 years. And then, we had the break during COVID. I didn't go out a lot then. And then, been coming out. And then John and Rob and I have been doing our stuff together for about just over a year. So yeah, I finally took the leap and was like, yep, I hate it and I love it. I'm going to keep doing it. Because it's terrifying.
Right.
It's terrifying every single time. And every time before I go up, I want to throw up. I feel sick for days before a show. And, you're by yourself. You don't have a team. You don't have a band with you. You don't have, supporting cast members. It's just you kind of being a jerk by yourself for however much time you have and hoping, that people like you and don't, it's tough. It's brutal. But I feel like when we do the Native specific shows that it feels like, nope, this crowd is on your side. This crowd is on your side. They want you to see you do well. They want to be excited. And they recognize a lot of the people that we talk about, that I talk about, that other Native comedians talk about. There's something, kind of universal about our families and whether we're urban or reservations or really remote areas. There's something that we can all kind of laugh about. And I love it. I love that part so much. I really do.
Well, if we were an urban comedy show or contest, we could call it Zero Res,
Yeah, we could get them as a sponsor.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
Perfect. I like that. That's good.
You can steal it. You can use it the 20.
Okay. I might use it.
Everything. It's been. I always say when I steal my material, because I used to be a high school teacher, as you know. And
yes. Yeah.
kids would always say you should be a comedian and get paid for this, and I say I am. I do get paid.
That's right.
Summers off.
Actually, I was just talking to my brother earlier today and he said, we were talking about my dad. I was like, well, I think he might be happy because I'm finally getting paid for what I do best, which is talking, like just talking, and that's it. And I think you'd think that that's all right.
Well, and you probably do well with hecklers, seeing that you have 3 grown boys, right?
They're my meanest and harshest hecklers and critics for sure. They really are. They are We don't get a lot of hecklers at the Native shows. We really don't, because people are having fun and doing it. I get that in other places, and myself and all other comedians, we hate it. It doesn't help the show. It's not the way it's supposed to be. You don't care what your cousin in New York told you. Heckling is not part of the show. I mean, it just kind of ruins everybody's nights, and it takes away the vibe and your cadence, that you're on. So no, I've dealt with hecklers, not a fan at all. So this is not a challenge to anyone either. Because like you said, I do have three boys. They challenge me enough. So.
Well, what I like, Trish, about Native humor is it's almost like, remember the days of watching the Flintstones? You had the adult humor and the kid humor at the same time, and we have the Native humor and the humor on the same jokes that we all get, and that's Reservation Dogs does that really well.
They do
You
it
guys
so
do
well.
it great, and
thank you.
Well, this is really flown here. We only got like a minute left. I want you to again talk about the Indian Way comedy show.
Yep. So Indian Way that will be happening this Sunday at the House of Comedy at the Mall of America, 7 p.m. So you can get your shopping in, get your Orange Julius, your Aunt Annie's, get your stuff, go check out Nordstrom Rack or whatever you have to do, and then come on in to the show. That would be great.
Trish, we got to do this again.
I'd love to. Thank you.
This just flew for me. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
And,
great to see you.
Yes, always great to see you, and see you up there emceeing at all our Native things. It really
I
is
hope so.
inspiring.
Thank you so. You're going to ask for a cut now, aren't you?
Oh, wow.
Thank you so much, Miigwech.
All right, we'll see you soon. All right, this is Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and up next we are Sacred Animal section with Wendy. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
J&S Bean Factory is a Native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
No one should have to choose between a paycheck and their health. Whether it's for a new baby, an unexpected illness, or an aging parent, Minnesotans deserve time to care for themselves and their families. That's why Minnesota Democrats are fighting for all working people to have paid family and medical leave. The time is now. Contact your legislator and tell them to pass paid family and medical leave for Minnesota. Learn more at paidleavemn.org. That's paidleavemn.org. Paid for by the Minnesota AFL-CIO.
A lot has changed since 2020. Metro Transit wants to hear from you to help build a network that best serves the Metro's needs for the next 5 years. Help us grow the right way as more resources, like more drivers, become available. Learn more, fill out an online survey, and find out about upcoming meetings in your neighborhood at metrotransit.org/network-now. metrotransit.org/network-now.
Would you let animals pick your insurance? Do you really need to experience mayhem to get the best rates? Or how about a celebrity quarterback or fake university saving you money? There's a lot of marketing stunts when it comes to insurance, but what you really need is someone looking out for you. Call Array Insurance, and they will work hard to find you the best insurance coverage and rates. So avoid gimmicks and call Cheryl at Array, 763-504-3067, or arrayinsurance.com. Array Insurance, working hard for you.
Hey, Olgama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Hey, it's Kelly from Edge Magazine. Ladies, it's time to break the silence surrounding sex and menopause. The Women's Press and Edge Magazine invite you to join our upcoming event, Let's Talk About Sex, Menopause, and Aging Bodies. It takes place this Saturday at the Women's Club of Minneapolis. We'll create a safe space for women to discuss everything related to sex, hormones, menopause, and beyond. It will be a fun day filled with expert speakers, fun swag bags, more than 25 vendor tables, and experimental sessions. Featured speakers include Gaia Discoli, a reporter from the Minnesota Women's Press, who will explore topics like sexuality after middle age. We'll also hear from Peter and Lindsay Hoskins about the art of self-love, dealing with isolation and aging, elder care options for the LGBTQ plus community, and more. So join us and discover the power of self-care with menopause in a safe and nurturing environment. That's this Saturday from 10 to 3 at the Women's Club of Minneapolis. More information at edgemagazine.net.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for cloudy skies tonight with a low around 34, Friday rain and snow with a high near 39, and Saturday partly cloudy with a high around 38. Spring has arrived and it's time to take a good look at your lawn. If there's bare spots or brown patches, Natural Lawn can help. For over 30 years, Natural Lawn has taken an environmentally friendly approach to lawn care to feed your soil without unnecessary chemicals. Beat the summer rush and visit naturallawn.com.
Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake. Now, I'm your host, Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
How? That was a good one. Hey, I want to introduce my awesome and beautiful wife, Wendy. Wendy's been an animal advocate for many years, and Wendy, you don't take any crap about these, our sacred animals. I think
really
I should
don't.
add that to the intro, but no, I appreciate it. And I just want to say too, during the 7 years that we've done this show, I've really learned a lot. And I've always, been keyed in with our sacred animals, but I've really learned so much more, and I really appreciate that. And I really feel more connected to our relatives because of this segment that you do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, Robert. I appreciate
It's
that.
true.
Hey, everybody. My name is Hanaji. That means cares for them. I was given that name by my Dega Curtis. Curtis goes by Mashke Hanajinga, which means walks on white clouds. I'm a humane policy volunteer leader for the Humane Society of the United States, and I work on animal issues at the local and state level. Funny story. Can I just say it really quick?
Yeah.
So I'm a humane policy volunteer leader. That's like a big word, right? For the Humane Society
hard
of
for
the
me to
United
say.
States. We were supposed to be just humane policy leaders, but then the acronym would have been HPV. And they didn't want us to be HPV because it's a human papillomavirus.
Right.
So that's why they added leaders at the end. So we're humane policy volunteer leaders. Whoo!
So
just a funny kind of story. I
we
actually
learn more
I
here.
just learned that the other day talking to our state director. So
We learn it all.
yeah. So I was talking last week about going to the Blaine, Minnesota City Council meeting where I was able to testify on behalf of the Humane Pet Store Ordinance. And I kind of just said it out there on the radio airwaves, exactly kind of what I was going to say to the city council members, because I wasn't sure whether when I got there, whether I was going to be able to testify or not, because it is a first come, first served basis, but I did.
Wow.
I wrangled my way up there and I was able to talk about the Humane Pet Store Ordinance. And just quickly, the Humane Pet Store Ordinance, what it does is it severs the pipeline that these pet stores have from getting the puppy mill and puppy mill kittens into their store. So that's what that does. We need to stop these puppy mills. And the way to go about it is to put this ordinance in place so that the pet stores no longer can obtain cats and dogs from puppy mills. And I've talked about this 1,000 times on the show.
Right.
Anyway, yeah, here in Minnesota, this ordinance is in place in St. Paul, Roseville, Eden Prairie, Carver, Cloquet, and now we're working on Blaine.
Right
We've been
on.
working on Blaine for 5 years now. If I have anybody listening
That lives
from
in
Blaine, Minnesota. I would really, really appreciate it. And all of us would appreciate it so much if you can get in touch with your city council member and tell them that you support the Humane Pet Store Ordinance and you would like to see that in Blaine. You want Blaine, Minnesota to join the Humane family with all these other cities in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So that's what that's my ask for today.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to just say this once again. I'm so happy. Howling for Wolves. Yeah, I got an email. And we already knew that this happened and we mentioned it, but I want to say it again because it's really important. The Minnesota House of Representatives voted to prohibit wolf recreational hunting in Minnesota. This is awesome, really awesome news. Now what happens, it goes from the House to the Senate, and now the Senate has to vote. So we all have senators that represent our local areas, and I would also suggest, this is my second ask for the day. My second ask for the day. I know I'm going to ask people, please help, to get in touch with your senator and let them know that you care about our Minnesota wolves. You want to see them here for future generations, and you want to ban wolf hunting. So if you could do that, that would be great.
You know, something interesting, Wendy. I'm sorry, I want to jump in here for a second. There was 69 yeses, yays, and 57 nays, right?
Yeah.
But several Republicans were not there, and some did not even vote that were there. So that tells me that they were for the bill, but they didn't want to be on record. Doesn't it?
That is a very good theory. Yes.
And then one Republican who didn't care, Minnetonka Bay voted pro-wolf, was Andrew Myers. So big Peeny Gigi, thank you for voting your conscience instead of a political.
Exactly. So
political
thank you. That was awesome. Yes, I love that. And then again, everybody knows that Robert went and testified in front of our Senate about this bill. It was an informational hearing, and people got up to speak their truth as well. And Robert did an awesome job. So I just want to thank you so much for doing that, Robert. I know it takes a lot of time out of your day. You have to prepare what you're going to say. It's a little bit nerve-wracking to get in there. It's like, hours and hours of, it really takes a lot to do that, to get up and to figure out what you're going to say and to testify in front of the Senate. It's very intimidating, but you weren't intimidated at all.
Well, you prepped me, so big Peeny Gigi, Wendy.
You did such a great job, and you really had, really good comebacks for some of the comments and questions that you were asked. So I just want to say thank you. Peeny Gigi.
You're welcome.
We have to really care about our wolves and our wildlife. And, I might talk about this on the next segment. I want to talk about, Robert and I have been going through a really tough, emotional and stressful time right now. I just want to talk about our neighbors. So we have neighbors here who have squirrels in her attic. And she hired a company to come and trap the squirrels.
Well, I don't even know, Wendy, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I don't even know if they're really in her attic. When I went over there and talked to her in a good, calm way, she said that the squirrels were walking on the roof and keeping her daughter awake. So, and then as the conversation went longer, it was other things like squirrels were getting the house but you know more because you get investigated a little more than me. I just went over when we saw that horrific sight.
Yeah. So what was happening, and we don't know if it's stopped yet, but what was happening is this company, I'm not going to name the company. There's hundreds of them out there. They claim to, come and get rid of your critters that are in your attic and house, and they trap them. What they do is they claim to be as humane as possible and relocate the animals. So what happens is this guy puts the traps on top of her roof. Now she's really high up. She has a really big house and the roof is really high up. So he puts these 2 traps up there. And from where we are, Robert and I are, from our window, from our deck, from our house, our backyard, we could see these traps very easily. They're right there in front of our face. And we could watch these squirrels in the tree, like squirrels live in trees, right? They climb around in trees. And what they do is they bait the traps. I don't know what they put in there, but the squirrels are very intrigued about what's in the trap because they go in the trap. So it must be something really good that they like to eat. And then what happens is we're watching this squirrel climb around in the tree, and then we watch the squirrel go down on the branch closer to the roof, jumps up on the roof, and there's Robert and I screaming, get away, get away from the trap.
Kidding.
Don't get in the trap. Don't get in the trap. What happens? The squirrel goes in the trap after this yummy bait that's in there. The door closes behind him. The squirrel is, you could see it's physically shocked. It's crawling around, scraping around, trying to get out of this trap. Now the weather's changing, right? Now it's starting to rain. It's starting to rain harder and harder, and it's thundering and it's lightning. And this poor squirrel, you can hear him screaming, scratching around this trap, trying to get out, cannot get out. Now it's dark. Now it's dark. It's raining. It's thundering and lightning. What happens the next day? I see the company, pull up in the truck, gets his 40-foot ladder out, maybe even higher, climbs up there. What happens? What does he bring down? A dead squirrel in the trap. A dead squirrel in the trap. This poor animal died a horrific, horrible, tragic death. This wasn't a fast death. The the squirrel just didn't get his head chopped off and it's dead. No, it stood there for hours and hours and hours. It might have taken 10 or 12 hours. They come every 24 hours to get the squirrels out. I could not even sleep.
Right.
Now, there's a lot of easier, more humane. Before I get into that, I just want to say 97% of squirrels, they're very territorial animals. They're territorial. So 97% of squirrels who are relocated die shortly after because all the territory is already taken up, right? There's already squirrels already there living in the trees. There's usually 1 or 2 squirrels per tree. That's it. They chase all the other squirrels out, and they soon die after being relocated. There are more humane ways to get rid of these animals. If they're on your roof, if they're making noise, if they're inside your house, bang pots and pans, play really loud music, bang on the walls, get them out. And when you know that they're not out there anymore, what you could do is put a piece of cardboard or something that's easy for them to move so that you could see whether they're going in and out. And then once you know that they're out, you need to fix that hole immediately.
Right.
Fix the hole immediately. Trim back your trees. Squirrels go on trees. If they could climb on your roof, that's what they're going to do. Cut back your trees. So anyway, I called the company. I spoke to the woman. I talked to the technician that climbs up the tree, climbs up the house and leaves the traps. And I really honestly harassed I'm not going to lie. I kind of harassed him. And he said to me, you're not the first one to harass me. So this happens to him all the time.
Yeah.
So please, if you're out there listening, you have little critters in your house, please do the humane thing and not kill animals slowly.
Well, and the sad thing, Wendy, we got 30 seconds, but the sad thing for me is not only was I thinking about it all the time, we watched it happen.
Yes.
And so what do? We keep on looking out our window and see this poor squirrel on this roof.
This company was treating these like they're mosquitoes, squashing a fly. That's how this animal is treated.
Exactly. Hey, up next, more sacred animal portion here with Wendy. We'll be right back after this short break.
I have happier news. Stay tuned.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States.
And 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected.
Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf.
Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy.
As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired.
Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl. Howl!
No one should have to choose between a paycheck and their health. Whether it's for a new baby, an unexpected illness, or an aging parent, Minnesotans deserve time to care for themselves and their families. That's why Minnesota Democrats are fighting for all working people to have paid family and medical leave. The time is now. Contact your legislator and tell them to pass paid family and medical leave for Minnesota. Learn more at paidleavemn.org. That's paidleavemn.org. Paid for by the Minnesota AFL-CIO.
J&S Bean Factory is a native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Wow. Hey, part 2, Wendy.
Yeah, this one's going to be a lot better, a lot happier and lighthearted. You know, Robert, I didn't even realize that I wasn't even planning on talking about the squirrels.
That's what's great about live radio. You can just kind of
really heavy on my mind, and it really, honestly, you know, when you see something like that and you see an animal struggle and really suffer like that, it really, to me, really, I just can't even watch it. I mean, it was heartbreaking. It was like, do we have a 40-foot ladder in our house? I was going to go on our property and get the squirrel down, you know.
Exactly.
You know, so it's just a hard thing. I'm glad we looked today. I made kind of a ruckus. I've called that company and told them what's happening and talked to them about the squirrels and my concern, and I don't see any traps up there now. There might be traps up there. They might be like, you know what, we need to get these traps out of these people's view, and they might have put them somewhere else. But yeah. So anyway, there's always a more humane way to do things. Sometimes it might be a little bit harder, it takes a little bit longer, but there's always the humane way to do things, and that's what I want. Just people to think about, you know, because these companies, Robert, they tell you we do it the most humane way possible. We relocate the squirrels where there's food sources. You know, this is what this guy was telling me. So he's telling me all these good things, but.
So we're going to do another segment on this, or no?
I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm not.
No, what
I'm
I
done
do
talking about it,
I'm
and
not,
I have a fun story I want to share.
Give me 1 second. I want to just say one thing.
Yeah.
It's horrific. It was a horrific experience for both of us, and these are our relatives, and I just want to throw that out there too, because everywhere I looked to break them out, Wendy, it said that how inhumane it was to put them in a different area. So I just wanted to say that.
Right. You said article after article that you looked up how inhumane that was to relocate them because they are so territorial.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Enough about the squirrels.
Stay with us.
Yes, exactly. So a lot of you may have heard about the bald eagle named Murphy. Yes, he's been all over the internet. So he's from Missouri, and he lives in a sanctuary, the World Bird Sanctuary in Missouri. So Murphy has been there for a really long time because he has a broken wing or a wing that's deformed or something. Well, he can't fly, so he's been there. He's 31 years old. And what happened about a month ago was because the weather changes and, you know, it's like the season to have babies and stuff. Murphy found a rock that he was incubating.
Wow.
So what they found was Murphy he found a bunch of sticks, and he's on the ground, right? Because he can't fly. So he's not in a tree or anything, but he kind of made this little nest that he thought was a nest. It wasn't much of a nest, but he put the rock in there and he was incubating the rock. He would get up and turn the rock.
Would
he
he
would
get
sit on the
baby
rock.
rocks?
He would squawk at the other eagles that would come around to say, to protect the rock. And he really, did this. And, the sanctuary thought, well, this is so cute and everything, but how sad is it that he thinks that this rock is going to hatch and have a baby eagle? And as far as the sanctuary knows, he's never had any eaglets of his own. And just to say, eagles, bald eagles together, the male and the female co-parent. So they're both very involved. And this explains Murphy's behavior, right?
Yeah.
So what happened was they found an eaglet that's mom died.
Come on.
Yeah. So they did.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So they took the rock out, right? They had to sneak the rock out when Murphy wasn't looking, right? And they put this eaglet behind kind of a little bit of a fence so that Murphy could see him, but not really touch him, because honestly, they really didn't know how he was going to react when he saw it. He could have killed it, really.
Right.
But what happened was Murphy is turning out to be a pretty good stepdad.
Oh.
Yeah, he's feeding the eaglet and is on his best behavior. And he's really bonding with this little eaglet. And there's so many pictures on the internet. So all you have to do is Google Murphy eagle, and it'll tell you about the whole story. And it really is quite heartwarming. And just goes to show like how animals really want to nurture and care for the young, right? And he's feeding the little eagle. It's really, really, really cute. It's adorable, and it's just like a really, really heartwarming story. I have another story. It's kitten season. So it's kitten season right now, and I'm going to go bad news now. So bad news, but then I'm going to go good news.
Oh, okay.
So St. Paul and Minneapolis Animal Care and Control is getting more kittens and cats right now than they know what to do with. They have more cats. So this is the first time in years that they're euthanizing cats.
Oh my God.
Because they just don't have enough room.
No.
There's just not enough people out there who want cats, right? So they're overwhelmed with these cats, and it's also kitten season. So all the rescues are really looking for fosters. So if you have room in your house and you could foster, honestly, Robert, I would foster, but right now we have 3 sick animals in our house. So we really
so
can't.
it's really like 6 animals.
It is. It's a lot. But anyway, if you could foster, it's really helpful. And when you foster, you're really saving 2 animals' lives, right? You're saving the animal that you're fostering, so that animal does not get euthanized, and you're also making room for another animal to come in to rescue.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So also, baby bunnies are being born right now.
Oh my God.
Bunnies, I'm sorry, I'm going to say this on the air. They're not the smartest animals.
Oh.
So listen, they make their nest in the ground, like in the middle of your yard. Our neighbor who moved away, she used to have a hunting dog, and the hunting dog would go out there every day. What did she have in her backyard? The bunny. The bunny built a nest in the middle of her yard when there's a hunting dog on the property every day. Like, that's not very smart.
No.
I'm sorry to say. But our neighbor was really awesome. What she did was she put like a little fencing around the.
Really?
Yeah, she put a fence around the nest. So the dog couldn't get in it, but the mother bunny can go in and out of the nest and feed her young, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was really happy about that. But a lot of people will see the baby bunnies in the nest in the ground, and say, oh my God, I have to rescue them. I need to bring them, somewhere. But you don't leave them alone. What you want to do is make like a what they say is like get some twigs and put them around the nest, or get some yarn and put it around the nest, or put flour around the nest, so that you'll be able to see whether the mom is going back and forth and feeding the babies, right?
Wow.
You could also, if the mother's not around, you could pick up one of the babies, turn them upside down, and look at their belly. And if you see a nice little round belly, you know that the bunny has milk in it, and you know that the bunny is safe. If right, and you could pick up the bunny. The mom's not going to say, "Oh, I'm not taking care of my baby anymore because a human touched it." That doesn't happen. So you want to keep your animals out of the area. Avoid. Use grass twigs to make a little tic-tac-toe pattern over the nest to assess whether the mother is returning to nurse the young. Leave them alone. If you really know that the mom's not coming around and feeding the babies, and you turn them upside down and the baby's belly is really skinny, you want to call your local wildlife rehabilitation center to take further action.
All right, on, Wendy. Hey, Peony Gigi, for being on half the show. It's like the old days of Pilot's Progressive Party.
I have more. Do you want more?
next week.
All right.
Or maybe even tomorrow. Hey, if you're listening to the show, you're part of the resistance. Free Leonard Peltier now. We are the 7th generation.
Your Blue Line extension